You were tuning back in to Sara.
True. So this week did not turn out the way I thought it was going to, or technically last week did not turn out like I thought it was going to. As we all know, the quarterfinals started last week, but I mean, it was possibly the biggest Tobin Christen week in the history of the fandom. Yes. So we kind of focused some of our attention on that rather than the games.
Yeah.
Because as everyone knows, the Euros are still going on. The quarterfinals have just ended. We have our semifinalists. So that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to talk about briefly the 4 matches because I watched every game, and yesterday was the Netherlands-France game, and that was actually that was probably that in the Spain game. Spain-England, probably because they went to extra time and everything. Probably the most exciting games in my opinion. But we're going to talk a little bit about each game. Last Tuesday, it was Spain-England. And I think that was the match most people were looking forward to watching because obviously I think a lot of people want England to win. They're the host country. Spain is a strong team. And for England to get by Spain, it wasn't going to be an easy feat. We're going to have to do something special.
Yeah.
And also, as we remember, the 2 biggest players on Spain aren't even playing this tournament because they got injured.
It's wild.
Jenny Hermoso and Alexis Putellas. They are not playing.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah, so going into the match, I think most people thought it was going to be a pretty tight match. Good first half. Spain they were kind of in control of the match. Even in the first half, they looked really good. You know, a lot of people said they were faster and very precise in their passing. That they were just looking a lot cleaner than England. So going to that first half, yeah. And then 54th minute, Spain struck first. It was 0-0 going into halftime, then Spain struck first. And, I was pretty nervous at that point. I go, okay, Spain's going to be hard to beat. Coming back from even a goal down is usually even kind of hard in those kind of situations.
Easier than if you're down 2-0 or 3-0.
So I mean, up until the 84th minute, it was England, I think, looked a little bit better, but up until the 84th minute, I think a lot of people thought Spain was going to win this game. But 84th minute, what happens? Toone scores. And I mean, everyone was pumped. Once they scored, I think a lot of people thought, okay, it's still going to be tough. After that, then 90 was up, then it went to extra time. So, I mean, at that point, I'll be completely honest, our DVR ran out.
It stopped recording.
So Sara and I actually didn't watch the extra time because we did not set our DVR properly to anticipate extra time. But looking at replays, going into the 96th minute, Georgia Stanway scores a beautiful goal.
Yes.
It was a beautiful goal.
That was hot.
Such a firm strike.
That was fire.
And so they won. They did have time to, equalize, but that was it. That second goal was, I mean, I always say this. I mean, I sound like a broken record. It's like a movie. You're in the Euros, getting that goal, you strike, you decide to take the chance and kick the ball at that moment.
Spend it like Beckham, or what's that one with Dermot Mulroney? The soccer movie with Gracie. Y'all know what I'm talking about, that blonde girl.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a beautiful goal, and she'll never forget that. It was beautiful. So who watched that match? I'm sure that was the match Sara and I were most looking forward to, but beautiful game.
Do you play the beautiful game?
So what did everyone think about the Spain-England game? And Spain was gutted. I saw some of the players crying after, of course. Yeah. I mean, gutted beyond belief.
Sometimes.
Then there was the Germany-Austria game. This was a fun match because I think most people anticipated Germany. I think a lot of people thought, Austria was a pretty big underdog going in. Mm-hmm. And I guess they were, but they had been playing well. Both teams got so unlucky with the balls that hit the goalposts and the crossbar. Austria had a few that were inches away, and Germany had a couple that were inches away from scoring.
Yeah, what's up with all those hitting the crossbars?
And those games are always kind of frustrating because you're like 2 inches to the left. It could have been a different scenario. But Germany scored in the 25th minute. That second Germany goal, I've never quite seen anything like that. it just was unlucky. What it looks like based on what the commentators are saying, that Manuela Zinsberger didn't even notice the player coming up from her left. She came up and if you look at the thing, she wasn't even looking her direction at all. She didn't even practically notice her. I do think Germany was going to win that game no matter what. So it wasn't.
That's so sad.
That would have been heartbreaking if that was the winning goal. Absolutely heartbreaking. They were more likely going to win anyway, but I bet Manuela feels bad. But like I said, Austria more than likely would have not equalized because it was at the very end of the match.
Ugh, I want to cry at that, and I'm not a crier.
So that was kind of a little bit heartbreaking. A lot of people have Germany win the whole thing. So the fact that Austria didn't win against Germany, that is something where I think a lot of people are picking Germany to win the whole thing. Who watched that match? 2-0. Okay. On the 22nd, Belgium versus Sweden. We were looking forward to that match. Good match. Sweden as being, they've always been a front runner. They're hungry. After losing the Olympics last year, they were gutted beyond belief. Mm-hmm. So they are ready for a major tournament win again.
They're ready for a comeback.
So good game by Sweden. Sweden, a lot of people think that they dominated the whole game. Sweden really looked good. Also, like I said, they had COVID. Their defenders caught COVID. There was a overturned goal in like the 24th minute. Black Sinius scored a goal, and it was a little bit controversial because they said it was offsides. And it took a while for them. I mean, Sweden was celebrating. They were, excited. And it took them a minute or two. Usually it's pretty instantaneous. Yeah. Then it said, okay, we're going to check it offsides. And they overturned the goal. And a lot of people, I was watching the match after, and Emma Hayes said that she didn't think it should have been overturned. And then I was talking.
What did Christina Uncle say?
Oh, you know what? What did she... I have to look back at what she said, but I think she thought that it wasn't convincing enough that it was offside. I think that's what Christine Uncle said. I was talking to someone in DMs, and they thought maybe it was a correct call. So a little bit divided that they could have been the correct call. But going into the 90th plus 2 minutes, it was still 0-0. So that was, I think, pretty surprising, considering that Sweden was outplaying Belgium. And then they scored in the 90th plus 2 minute, and Sweden won. I think most people thought Sweden would have won that game. Who watched that game? Last and final was the game that just happened yesterday. That was wild. That game was wild. It's fresh on our minds, but we watched the whole entire game, first minute to extra time. And something we hadn't talked about is that Lieke Martens, she ended up hurting her foot, so she was out of the game. She wasn't going to play. Also, Viv was back, officially back, COVID-free, and she was back playing in the starting lineup.
I was surprised that she played the whole game.
The whole game, yeah.
The full 90 plus 30 minutes.
Yeah, so we'll get to that in a couple seconds because I want to talk what happened at the end. But going into this game, again, the fresh goalie, the new goalie, the Dutch goalie phenom, to 1 cap, 4 caps overall now.
She was doing the damn thing.
Some of these balls that she was saving was like magic. It was like witchcraft.
I know. And she's so young. Like, she looks so young in the goal. And it's just like, I don't know how old she is, but...
I don't think she's as young as she looks. I feel like she might even be like... She must be somewhat young, but yeah.
Yeah.
The first half, France could have had 5 goals. But between her, the back line, and Van der Graut, it was like witchcraft what they were doing.
Brujeria.
Netherlands just did not look... there was a couple really crafty balls that the French tried to get in there, but it wasn't happening. Going into halftime, it was still 0-0. And I think at that point, Netherlands came out and they said, you know what? Mother Nature might be on our side.
France, they were saying in the tournament that they were known to not score in the second half, but score in the first half, right?
Yeah, a lot of people say France is a first half team where they come out swinging in the first half and then kind of lose their energy the second half.
So that's where I kind of had a little hope for Netherlands.
Yes, and I was reading online. I think a lot of people thought Netherlands they were gonna become victorious. But second half comes out and the Netherlands look a lot better. And like Sara said, the French team are a first half team. Notice this, the commentators, it was Ian, but he was kind of like sassy. He was saying they kind of brought up the thing about Jill Roord, and we had talked about it too. And then he had said something about what he thought about her saying the thing about Mark Parsons does long meetings, no one listens. And he was saying things like, that's next to brainless, things like that. I was like shocked he had said that. But then he also made a point, him or Julie Foudy made the point of, she had said that, and now she's on the bench. She did come in at halftime, but she didn't start. Could that have been a factor of why she didn't start? Possibly. But I was surprised he had said that. And then, again, second half, the Netherlands looked a lot better. There was a couple balls where the one in particular, French had kicked it in, and then Wendy Renard, she looked up in the air like, what can we, there's nothing we can do to get a goal, But then again, the Netherlands didn't exactly, their offense wasn't, even though Viv was out there looking good, she got very tired by the end.
I mean, she was collapsing by the end.
Yeah, she looked very tired. Gutsy performance by her, just coming off COVID-19 to play, how many minutes was that? 90, 100, 120 minutes. I mean, just after having COVID. But in the 102nd minute, this is actually really hard. This is really devastating. It was a PK. Dominique Janssen committed a foul in the box, and it was valid. I mean, if you saw the replay, completely valid. Just a mistake. And then France scored on the PK.
Yves Perisset.
And
I don't know if I'm saying that right.
She kicked it in. It was a no doubt about her.
The goalie did go the correct way.
And she got a glove on it.
Yeah.
It was just too hard of a strike. If it wasn't as quite as hard of a strike, Domselaar, she probably would have gotten it. But it was just too hard of a strike. At the end of the game, Viv looked absolutely tired. It almost looked like she was going to collapse at the very end of the game. And then I was worried about her.
Wow, someone had to help her up.
It
looks like her knees were buckling.
Such a gutsy performance by the whole Netherlands squad. But that was it. Then at the end of the extra time, that was it. 1-0 based on the PK. And I will say, I do think performance-wise, France probably should have won that match based on all the factors. But that was it. Netherlands out. Defending champions out. A lot of people think Mark Parsons, some people think that there's a possibility he could either be fired or possibly resign. The coach of the Norwegian team, he resigned. I haven't seen too many people think that about Mark Parsons, considering the World Cup is next year, but I have seen a couple people think that.
Jill Roord.
Yeah. Just kidding. So what did you think about the game, Sarah?
It was a very exciting game to watch. Like, I was on the edge of my seat a lot of the game. It was wild, but good games all around.
Yeah, and then there was at the very end, even Viv was on the ground and then with Sara and I, there was an interview after from today, I think. Viv was answering the interview questions, and she was just completely gutted.
Yeah, she was sad, heartbroken.
I am reading here. A couple people think it was a bad penalty call. Most people, I said, saw that it was a fair penalty call. But to lose like that is hard. It is very hard. Van der Grout was, I think her and the goalie were the MVPs of that game from both teams. What they did out there will be remembered for a long time. Even though they lost, it will be remembered for a very long time.
For sure.
So what did everyone think? Did your team win in the quarterfinals? I don't think any of these results were actually shocking based on everything that we knew going into there. Mm-hmm. But now the question is, who does everyone have in the semifinals? England, Sweden? Who do you have? Mm-hmm. And Germany, France, who do you have? I will say, I think I have England, Germany in the final. I think a lot of people guessed England, Germany as the final match a long time ago. I think, and there would be no surprises if it were those two teams. But the next game will be on the 26th. So that will be the next game. I think overall England has still been, I think they have so much more to give to England. I really do.
Yeah.
And Germany, France, I have Germany. I think it's going to be Germany, England in the final. A lot of people have been DMing us and talking about, a lot of people think Germany, England at the very end. What about you, sir?
Yeah, I agree with that assessment, if you will.
What was the most shocking moment of the quarterfinals for you? And where does this leave Netherlands? I mean, the World Cup is in 1 year. And for them, they've kind of fallen from where they were perched at like the top of.
Fallen from cloud 9.
Yeah, the injuries have not helped them. There's a lot of things going on over there, and Netherlands is one of our favorite teams. What does everyone think? Questions, comments down below. What does everyone think? We'll talk to everyone later. Have a great night.
See you later.